Chad, I don't think Chad censored a single thing in the cut. I don't think Keanu Reeves censored a single thing in the cut. And I don't think David Leitch censored a single thing in the cut.
Hello, my name is Russ Milheim from the Direct. Thank you guys for both for talking to me today about Wick Is Pain.
My
Sure.
pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Of course. Just watching this, my first question, I've wondered this a few times with various documentaries about like productions and films and all that. I wanted to first talk about the archival process. What is the process like in making sure someone is always recording BTS at random moments, even if it may never see the light of day on these various films?
I'll take that one, Chad. But really, it comes down to in the beginning of this project, 10 plus years ago, Chad and David Leitch, the original directors of the original film, feeling like it was something that felt worth documenting. And essentially, we got this guy who is an old friend of mine and an old friend of Chad and David's who worked with us on The Matrix to fly to New York and ride in the cars with Chad and David and go to the scouts and go to the pre-pro meetings and go to the makeup tests and all that kind of stuff. And Chad and David were very nice enough to allow us on it. As you might have seen in the documentary, it wasn't necessarily the most copacetic environment. They had a lot of problems they had to overcome. So that's usually when the archivist tends to be shooed away when problems arise. But to their credit, the filmmakers let us just stick around. And then after that, once they got some momentum, Maddie was invited back on John Wick's 2, 3, and 4 and was there all the way up to the very last day in the desert in Jordan. So, he must have shot a couple thousand hours over those 10 years.
I can imagine like sifting through all that must have been quite the process. And like, what do I keep? What do I take? Like, you probably could have like three more documentaries.
Yeah, and we did, over the years, we made a lot of stuff to help promote the film. We made a lot of, featurettes and HBO specials and DVDs. And John Wick has a really active and vivid life in the home entertainment space. People love to buy Blu-rays and DVDs of John Wick. So we made a lot of stuff with that material, but there was always a ton of stuff that wasn't just about promoting the movie, that was about the real life experience of making the movie. And every time that Chad would come back to the drawing board and make another John Wick, I would say, hey, we have a lot of stuff that we've shot that has never seen the light of day, that isn't necessarily all about the victory of John Wick, but that is a little bit more about the struggle of making it. And that's what went into this film.
We're talking about that struggle. One thing that shocked me was just kind of getting to see that genuine, kind of messy conflict on set. And it's usually something that, it does happen on various projects, but it's usually swept under the rug because it needs to be as the film is coming out and we're getting it out to the world. Overall, how does the review process work for stuff like that? Does every personal conversation need to be okayed that you guys show? And like, how does the ethics behind that and what you're showing work out?
These guys gave me carte blanche. I don't think Chad censored a single thing in the cut. I don't think Keanu Reeves censored a single thing in the cut. And I don't think David Leitch censored a single thing in the cut. So from my perspective, we got to put what we wanted to into that edit.
I in just on that same topic, I want to dive deeper into with that conflict, just the relationship, Chad, between you and David, as it was so important to the first film and the documentary. Can you just talk more about how like those unexpected conflicts, how those you just helped, uh, you know, bring the product that we did get with the first John Wick?
Unexpected, huh?
Yeah, or maybe they were expected on your end. I don't
What do
know.
you have a best friend?
I do. Yes, there was
You argue a
conflict.
lot?
Yeah.
I mean, what, in my circle, guys, first of all, we're stunt performers. Well, Dave and I were back in the martial art days, so we were competitors, different weight classes, but we competed a lot. So I just want you to understand that, like, you have a competitive mindset. Some things work for you that don't work for other people. So you come up in that insular way, but you're still part of a team. So Dave and I were always very different competitors, but it's part of the same team. So now we're both stunt people, which is, to say the least, a competitive, ego-driven industry. You know, We were exposed to everything. We performed at a high level in that, and we got to a fairly decent career in our stunt careers and our action directing, our second unit careers. So but we all came up in different paths. So you have a personality, I have a personality, and we both think we're right most of the time. The main difference between Dave and I is when you say unexpected, we expected to argue, we expected confrontation, we expected antagonism. We knew each other for 15 years before that. Ran a company together. We did some of the biggest action movies of the time together. It wasn't like, do you think we were all in sync, or did you think that like, one of us was going to have the crown and everybody? Like, no, the reason we did it is because we expected that. Like, there was nothing surprising. Of course, we were going to bump heads, but the goal was to create something different, right? To go back to a different style of action movies and create something different. Like, did we? Yeah. Did it take conference? Like, we're just from a world where debate and confrontation is not a bad thing. We should argue. We should think that there isn't an argument that you'll see or that we had. And we had some pretty, fuck you down to like, this is fucking bullshit. There wasn't one time we didn't go home at night and have a drink. Like, we may be argumentative and egotistical and sometimes delusional, and we argue about the creative process, about what is, what isn't. The hardest part was getting in line. The arguments about camera here, this, like, we also had a third person, John Sella, who was a much more experienced cinematographer, but yet a friend as well, who actually guided us. And then there was a fourth voice, and this was Keanu, which was our mentor, because he had been through this and he had directed a movie and he had done he was part of this. So not that we needed referees or tailbreakers, but like, we wanted to do something different. We didn't know how to get there. None of us did, but we all knew creatively that everybody respected everybody. I know Dave is brilliant. I know he has great opinions. I like his taste. I like what we all agreed on one thing, what we wanted the movie to be. That's the important. The real problems happen when you don't know them. We're making two different movies. All of us were making the same movie. We just didn't quite always agree on the minutia to get there, but that's what got at this. Like, we argued about how many headshots. Were there too many headshots? We argued about how we should kill a putt. But like on all the big stuff, Dave, myself, Keanu, and John, when somebody else picked on any one of our ideas, that was it. That was the brotherhood. No matter how we determine how to get it, we were united on, we're going to kill the puppy. It is essential. The wife does not die for bad guys. That is essential. The action design, while it's going to blow everybody away and no one's going to like that we're slow editing and they're going to do long takes, no one at the time liked that idea, but we knew that was going to be something and the way we wanted to do it. No one was going to get the world building right off the bat, or the Greek mythology, or the reference to Lord of the Rings. No one was going to get that, but we were stuck like on all the big points that everybody now considers a John Wick essence, trope, whatever you want to say, a characteristic, is we were united on. So, of course, when you go a bunch of alphas in the room, there's going to be disputes and arguments, but like, we looked at it as a good thing. Yeah. Like, Dave and I have two very different careers, and we have two very interesting movies and our tastes. But John Wick we went out, we did what we were supposed to do. And then people ask, well, you guys must really argue because you're not like, no, we were already on our different directing careers. We just saw a great opportunity to work with somebody we love in the once in a lifetime project where the actor think, well, you have this control and you have this freedom to do something different, and now you have to prove it. That happens to directors once, maybe never in a career. So we both jumped on board to do it, to get this synergy that we wanted. And Dave and I are great. Like, we may argue about it. Like, we have the honesty to go, that's a stupid idea. That's good. Fuck, dude, that sucks. What else you got? Like, with the freedom of not holding it against each other, so that you didn't have to hold your tongue. You didn't have to be reserved. You could just spit it out. And I think that's what helped. So when the movie did well, it gave us both the financial and occupational freedom to pursue our own different interests. That's why we kind of went our own ways, because we each had our own things. But like, we still talk all the time. Yeah. There was never an argument that disrupted a friendship. I mean, that it's hard when you see people. You think, oh my, like, look, we have huge egos, but we're not idiots. You expect that to happen, and that's what you want. Like, Keanu will debate all day long. Like, he'll question us, he'll do things, but that's not going to upset his absolute trust in the directors to do the thing. He just wants we want to all vent and hear each other. You never want to enter into a creative environment where you can't be heard. at the end of the day, like there's still the director hierarchy and all that, but like we want smart people giving ideas. We don't assume to know everything. If you
Yeah.
shut that down, or if you have some weird hierarchy where you can't debate, you see what that does in politics and relationships, and most certainly in a creative process.
Hmm.
So if anything, I think our strength is the ability to yell, scream, be confrontational, debate, and still hold respect and love to get the right juice out of the squeeze.
Yeah.
And I would just say really quick as a follow-up, like when we sat down to do the commentary for John Wick 1, the DVD commentary, and it was just you and David in the room and perhaps some alcoholic help. You guys were absolutely giddy with excitement to call out each other's ideas. You guys were like, that was your idea. That was fucking awesome. That was your idea. That was fucking awesome. So after all the argument, the correct idea always won.
Yeah, I mean, we come from a very, like, you can't really bullshit behind the camera. You're either good or you're not. You come through, you're not. You hit your mark, you don't. Some people have a very unique way of dealing with, like, there's no bullshit. There's egos and all stuff, but at the end of the day, you kind of know the truth because you actually have to deliver. There's no fantasy about it. So
Yeah.
you have to be honest with yourself too. And, basically, that shit talking, that calling each other out and giving it, like, we came up very early realizing you can still maybe talk a little shit, have a little fun with somebody, take the piss out of them, but still hold great amounts of respect for them. That's what it's kind of about. And that's just kind of the little bit of the, I guess, the inner workings of the background we came from.
How did you guys decide how much real estate each film would take up in this documentary? Because as I mentioned earlier, you probably have enough footage and content for like 3 different documentaries, like for each movie.
Yeah, we debated it a lot. A lot of there's that, as you mentioned already, there's so much drama in the creation of the first film, and to some extent, 2, 3, and 4, like there's a bit of the rest is history to the way the storytelling could go. But of course, having witnessed 2, 3, and 4, there's so much, first of all, just so much insane filmmaking to be shown, and so much growth, both of the story and of Chad as a filmmaker, and of this world of John Wick. So we wanted to give as much time to every movie as possible. Of course, I think we started out wanting to make a 90-minute film, and like Chad, we swelled up to something over 2 hours and tried to kind of like hem it back into something manageable. But it's hard because there's a great human drama in just the first movie even getting made at all. And in the life that everyone made, Derek, Chad, David, everyone led up to the point of the first movie getting made. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of these guys coming out and getting their feet underneath them in the film industry and doing stunts, and Derek coming up with the idea. So John Wick 1 takes up a great deal of real estate, but that's not to sell the process of making these other 3 films short, because they went from a little indie movie shooting in New York to a complete bonkers epic movie where Chad literally rented the Louvre and was shooting in front of the Mona Lisa. So I feel like there's a good story to tell all around.
Chad, there's been a lot of reflection with not only this documentary, but that 10-year anniversary screening last year on, that first film and really the franchise as a whole. Given all of that and that reflection, how has that informed you about where the franchise will be going from here, from John Wick Chapter 5 to the anime, and whatever other spin-offs are in the pipeline?
Good question. Like, you start off, it's just 2 or 3 people, and now you can imagine, what do they say? Success has a lot of friends.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but there's a lot of more influences now. It's the trade-off you pay, and it's a good thing. Don't get us wrong. We've been incredibly lucky with our partnership with the other entities, Lionsgate and the other people we work with Thunder Road, all stuff, to be, still control a lot of freedom and stuff. But it is a business. So they expect certain returns on us, and we expect certain returns on them. and it's been a pretty good relationship. It's just whether you believe the Wicks are different or not, or you like him or not, they are definitely made in a very different way that most of Hollywood can't or seems to have a problem getting their head around. We don't follow certain rules. We try to do things differently. We don't follow the budgeting models. I think that most people do. We don't do the casting model. Like we just worried about a certain tone and flavor that we like, and we try to get that in. We try to be storytellers more than movie makers. I don't know if that makes sense, but maybe a little of both. Maybe that's not the right way to put it, but we definitely do things a little differently. So that's very easy when it's just yourself. But every time we've had to do one, you have to reconvince certain parties that yes, we have to educate them on the methodology, because the Wicks only work because we literally don't take notes. We spend money. Like, just if you like what we have to say or the idea that we're going, you don't have to understand it. You're not supposed to understand it. Like, you need to be able to understand that, like, you can't read a script. You have to see a script. Reading is a very different way to infuse information than seeing. So reading leaves interpretation in your mind. When I show you something, there's very little room for you to interpret it. It's either you like it or you don't like it. So you have to imagine what a close your eye. Did you see John Wick 4?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. I need you to reverse engineer out the images to what it read like on paper. Guy named Tracker with dog walks through hotel lobby, flirts with dog. Ninjas come out of the corners. They fight. It's a quick draw. Next thing you know, dogs biting crotches. Like, it doesn't read that cool. Like, imagine John Wick 3, the Halle Berry. Like, picture how John Wick's read. Like, and you don't think we get some notes back about, not sure you're going to do this. This reads goofy. Don't understand the theme. What does Hagakure mean? What does this mean? Why are they sounding like a fortune cookie here? Like, what? Like, why are there ninjas? Like, what kind of, like, what? Gambling den with dancers and waterfalls? What are you talking about, dude? We're not spending money on that. Like, it's already too much money. Like, you don't need the waterfalls in the club. Why do they have hatchets? Like, you have to trust that we're not writing a movie. We're seeing a film. Yeah. And in order to get a schedule, a budget, and cast, I have to put words to it. Not a lot of people are comfortable, because for most studios, scripts are points of control. So they have to get that. And again, the argument is, of course you don't get it, Russ. If you got it, you wouldn't need me. Like, I'm the one with the kooky how to make it happen. You just got to have to. There's a level of trust. Yeah. So as you go further and further into it, we have to get kookier with the ideas, knowing that totally we have to keep it grounded so the audience doesn't think it's a Bugs Bunny cartoon. And that's always a challenge. So to your question, sorry, I just need you to understand the process behind it. And that kind of influences what we're going to do. If you realize we're trying to tell mythology and not an A to B to C story, like a regular movie, a 3-act structure where there's a beginning, middle, and end. John Wicks don't have beginning, middle, and ends. They're just chapters that you happen to open a book to. Could either one stand on its own? Yeah, but it's helpful if you see the one before, but you don't need to, right? Mm-hmm. And is it over on John Wick 4? That chapter's over. He died. Does that mean the book's over? No, not necessarily. But, like, you know, how we come up with these things is usually an idea or a theme. We wanted to make a cowboy samurai Western. We wanted the themes of brotherhood, trust, and betrayal. And we wanted this idea of rotating friendships. And that's how we came up with John Wick 3. We wanted a rock opera for number 2. We wanted a thing of hierarchies and subservience and what does it mean to serve. We wanted that as number 3. Number 1 was a clusterfuck of we didn't know what we wanted. We just know we didn't want to do the norm. So it was an ode to 70s film. You know what I mean? So to do a number 5 or do the TV show or the anime, we need these themes and how we're going to tell the mythology. That usually comes first. And then we start going to work on the scenes and a certain kind of way we want to tell the story.
Well, hopefully 5 has more dogs biting crotches, because, you know, 3 and 4 got put in.
We love a dog. We love a good dog.
I just also like to suggest as the title for your memoir, Chad, why are there ninjas? I think that's a good quote.